This is an experiment recording a whiteboard session. So I'm going to talk about EMD, also known as earnest, money, deposit. Most importantly, what is it? Interesting. So here you are, and you found a house that you want to buy. And here's another person. Okay, the problem with this person is that they have no money. Okay, both of you want to buy the house. So the question is, which offer should the seller accept? And should the seller take the house off the market while working on the deal in order to determine if you are a potential buyer? Because the seller knows nothing about this guy or you, right? They know nothing about you. All they know is that they've got an offer for sale. That's where the EMD comes in. So the EMD is part of the offer, and it says, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money, $2,500, $0, EMD. Okay, and what the EMD tells the seller is, I'm going to let you hold on to my money just to say that I'm serious. And if for some reason I don't buy your house for a reason not stated in the contract, and that part's important, you can keep my earnest money deposit, and that will compensate you for the time that the house was off the market and your troubles. So, an important thing to note there is that I said, if I cancel a transaction for a purpose not in the contract, here are good reasons to cancel. Okay. Good reasons to cancel. Okay. Return my EMD. So if any of these reasons that you cancel are good reasons to cancel, you get your EMD back. Okay. 1. I am an FHA buyer or a VA buyer. So this is a very generalized statement, but if you are coming in with an FHA or a VA loan, it is extremely difficult for the seller to keep an EMD. So the number one good reason is that you are an FHA or a VA buyer. Now, the seller can keep your EMD if you're one of these buyers, but in order to do that, they need a special form from the bank that they present to you during the transaction, which, because the bank works for you, the seller generally does not get. So because they cannot get that form, or they never ask for that form, or they don't take the time to fill it out, FHA and VA 99.9% of the time will get their earnest money deposit back without any trouble. Okay. If you are not FHA or VA, chances are you're going in with conventional. And then the following things apply whether you're conventional, FHA, or VA, right? So you cancel because you find a problem with the house. You find a problem with A, the house, B, the neighborhood, or C, the title. In days 0 through 17. Okay? So, if you find either a problem with the house, the neighborhood, or the title, in the first 17 days of the transaction, you can cancel, and you get no penalty, which means you get your EMD back. Okay? Third reason to cancel, because the house did not appraise for value. In days 0 through 17. During the first 17 days, the standard car purchase agreement includes a 17-day period in which the buyer can get appraisals. During that 17-day period, if the appraisal comes in and the appraiser says this house is not worth what you're paying, you can back out of the contract and get back your EMD. You get your money back. And the fourth good reason would be because the bank rejected your loan. In days 0 through 21. Okay, so if the bank rejects your loan within 21 days of the offer starting, again, you can cancel and get your EMD back. Okay, so some important dates to notice there. Okay, first, days 0 through 17. In days 0 through 17, you have two contingencies. One is called the inspection contingency. The other is the appraisal contingency. And a contingency is a way to back out of the contract that gets you your EMD back. Gets your earnest money deposit back. Inspections includes anything about the house, the neighborhood, the property. It does not include the identity of the neighbors. Okay, so you find out that the neighbors are really just people you wouldn't get along with, right? For whatever reason. Particularly reasons relating to protected classes like race, gender, sexual preference. Any of these protected classes would be reasons not to cancel during your inspection. But you find out that the neighbors never maintain their lawn, which affects the value of your house, right? You find out that the neighborhood is on a sewer system and you thought it was it's on a septic system and you find out that it's not a public sewer like you thought. That affects the value of the house. Any inspection of the property that affects the value of the property, or your ability to maintain the property, is a good reason to cancel in the 17-day period. And of course, the appraisal is usually required by the bank, and the appraisal happens in the first 17 days. If this comes in and the value is not for what the contract is, then you can say, hey, look, I'm backing out because this house isn't as valuable as you said it was. This is the thing that stops you from buying a $200,000 house and paying $600,000 for it, right? So generally speaking, the appraisal gives you and the bank a reasonable measure of certainty that the price that you're paying is a reasonable value for that specific property. Okay, so again, 17 days to get the inspections done and the appraisal done. What this means is, as soon as your contract is started, okay, on day 0, as soon as you get it gets accepted, you want to order all inspections and all appraisals. You want to do that immediately. Order these. Okay, the reason why we want to order these on day 1 is because we want them done with enough time that we get our findings back before day 17. With that being said, okay, by ordering these on day 1, you help protect yourself. You can make your evaluation before day 17, and then before day 17 you can either cancel the contract, ask the seller to modify the contract, or waive the contingency and say, I'm going to continue to buy the house as is because everything looks good. Okay. Day 0 through 21. Okay. This allows a little bit of extra time for the bank to do their work based off of the appraisal. So once the bank has the appraisal, they can evaluate whether or not you're going to get your loan approval. Okay, so you order the appraisal immediately, usually through your banker. The appraisal report comes to you. It also comes to your bank. The bank takes a look at the appraisal, and they look at your records and everything that you've given to them, your W-2s, your taxes, your pay stubs, and your credit report. The bank looks at all of this, and they tell you before day 21 whether or not they're going to approve your loan. And if they say we are not going to approve your loan, you can cancel and get your money back. Okay? So these are the 3 times that you can exit the contract and get your money back. 1, 2, 3. Get your money back. Alright, so we're talking about the EMD. That's the money we're talking about, okay? And in Bakersfield, typical EMDs range between $2,000 and $5,000. Let's say that this one's $2,500. Okay, so this money goes into escrow. It does not go to the seller. Never, ever, ever paid to the seller. Escrow. Escrow is kind of like a bank. It's a neutral third party. All they do is hold the money. The seller sits here and they don't get access to this. They get no access to that until the transaction closes. And once the money goes in, you also don't get access to it until the transaction closes. So this money stays safe. And it's just there as security. It's only there to protect the transaction and give the seller reassurance that there's something there to protect his interest. There's something in escrow that says I'm a serious buyer, and if I am not a serious buyer, you get compensated for me wasting your time. And it's something that the buyer can rely on to help pay for some expenses at close. Okay, so the EMD is not the down payment. Down payment okay, these are closing costs. Closing costs include the down payment, escrow fees, title fees, lending fees. These are the money that goes to the bank, and occasionally agency fees. Occasionally. This one's rare. Okay, so these are your closing costs that the buyer has to pay. So if the buyer goes all the way through day 17 and they say, I still want to buy, I still want to buy. And then they get to day 21 and they say, the bank is going to give you the money. Then they get to close. All right, so what happens to this EMD money at close? At close, this money can be used to pay your closing costs. Okay, so it is not the same thing as the down payment. A lot of people get this confused. This is not the same thing, but this money can be used to pay part of your down payment. It can be used to pay part of your escrow fees. It can be used to be part of your title fees. It is your money. It's just sitting in somebody else's control in the central escrow to provide the seller security. Okay. The only time the EMD becomes not your money is if you cancel outside of one of these periods for a bad reason, or you're not an FHA or a VA buyer. Remember, FHA and VA, you almost always get your money back. Almost always. Okay? If you cancel for a bad reason, and the seller's lost time on the market, maybe the seller's had to say no to multiple buyers who say, hey, I want to buy your house. I want to buy your house. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm selling it currently to the buyer. I can't do this deal. All right, all of these people that could have bought the house are now gone, and it's your fault. And so this EMD goes to the seller to compensate him for this lost business down here. Okay, so that's the purpose of the EMD. So again, in summary, just to kind of recap here, EMD stands for earnest money deposit. It is a security for the transaction. It remains your money. It is not the same as down payment. And you can use it, can be used to pay closing costs. All right, so thank you very much for watching this video. I have no idea if it worked. As far as the recording, I'm experimenting, but if it did, that's great news, and hopefully it provided some useful information. So I'm going to stop recording and share this to Facebook.